They don't see this as a war. They see it as a criminal act. How do you hurdle that?
We have to engage in the debate on a national level. That's what I have tried to do as a member of the United States House of Representatives. I have an election certificate, and this is what I have focused my energies on almost exclusively for the last 2 years. I've tried to wave a flag to get the attention of the American people that this is a real and present danger, and we have to address it. And I've tried to do that with the Obama administration. I've tried to do that with Republican leaders in Congress as well. I am not the only one, but this is where I've tried to focus my energy because this is a committed enemy that is committed to seeing the defeat and destruction of the United States of America and also the defeat and destruction of the Jewish state of Israel.
Amen. That's right.
We need to recognize this, and we need to push back. And what's bizarre is that the United States, as we are speaking, is currently the economic and military powerhouse of the world. And this is a relatively small army of 12,000 committed warriors. We can defeat this army. What we need to do is we need to take out Baghdadi. We need to take out his leadership. We have taken out his right-hand man not too long ago. And we need to take out all 12,000 of his army. And we eliminate them from the battlefield.
Okay.
And by that I mean we kill them on the battlefield until they wave the white flag of surrender. That is how you end a war, because our first duty as a government is to protect the welfare and national security of the American people.
Yeah. All of that is important stuff, and I think the legislation has got to be passed and then enforced, and that's the big deal right there, because we have an administration that doesn't want to enforce particular laws and picks and chooses what it wants to do. But if we don't close our southern border and be careful with our national security of who comes in our country, these people just get thrown out of the country if they're here already and circulate back to us through our southern border and become one of the unidentified aliens in our borders and do as much damage again. So all of this we've talked about, border security, and then of course rooting out those who are going to fight with ISIS or going to fight with one of the Islamic Jihad organizations elsewhere and not letting them back, calling them non-U.S. citizens, pulling their passports, all those things. All that's good. What about the ones that are already here that are working in our midst? All of this, the whole thing works together. The reason I broke in or wanted to say this is because that southern border, again, I come back to that. If that's not secured, these people just merely circulate right back through us.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's why I introduced the other piece of legislation that would take away the passport and citizenship of someone in the United States if they are a citizen, but it would also deport them because they are a clear and present danger to the United States and our national security. Because remember, these Islamic jihadist murderers don't see themselves as Americans in any way. They see themselves as part of the caliphate of the Islamic State and of the caliphate globally. And if we are going to have a strategy against whether it's the Islamic State or just Islamic Jihad globally, denaturalizing and deporting its members will accomplish a great deal. Because, again, we may be on the battlefield in Iraq and Syria to eliminate them, but we also need to make sure that we do not allow them to march through our United States airport and cross our southern border. We have to do it all. We have to keep them out of illegally entering our borders. We need to keep them out of our airports, and we need to defeat them where they are. Because George Bush said rightly, either we defeat them over there where the war is occurring, or we'll be forced to fight them here. I don't want to see the car bombings and all of the havoc and chaos coming to the United States that we see in Baghdad. That's what Baghdadi did when President Obama released Baghdadi, the head of the Islamic State, in 2009 from Camp Bucca in Iraq. He reconstituted his Islamist jihadist forces, and he began a series of car bombings across Iraq to destabilize the nation. He destabilized it in 2012. He destabilized it in 2013, and that's how he was able to make his breathtaking gains in 2014, because he had first destabilized. If we have the Islamic State come into the United States, and we see a wave of car bombings and bombings that occur here in the United States that would begin the process of destabilization to bring them to the point of defeating us here in the United States.
When I talked with you privately, Michelle Bachmann, we talked about some things because the listeners are sitting at home right now thinking, I am helpless. There's nothing I can do but possibly almost cower in fear. And that is not true, by the way, folks.
No, that's right.
And you and I, Michelle, we talked about some things that people can do. And here's some of the things you told me, and I want you to elaborate on a couple of them. We can fight back at the voting booth. We can ask pastors to address things from the pulpit, such as the difference between Islam and Christianity, and some other things. Pastors, that'll be real blunt, if you wouldn't mind, please. We need to call out Islam as a false religion. We need to be a greater proponent of biblical values, because here's where you see prosperity and happiness. We need to stop the political correctness. We need to stop the Sharia law in America, in our financial systems, in our housing. We need those on both sides of the aisle to keep us safe. Now, out of all those bullet points I just gave, Michelle, also acknowledging that there are those at home listening right now saying, what can I do? Which one of those do you pick out? Which one should we focus on? How do we end this with a little hope?
Well, I think we should have hope. It played out in front of us over this last year. Islamic Jihad and the Islamic State. This, again, goes back to where we started, that this is a religious-based war. What we are seeing is the face of Islam played out as the Prophet Muhammad brought violence upon a Jewish community and killed multiple Jews to take over that community. This is what the playing out of the Prophet Muhammad's goal, realizing his goal. So we are seeing this, and that's why it's an opportunity for biblical teachers and for pastors from the pulpit to take a page of history and also of current events and apply that to the Bible so that we can show what the purpose and aims of this religion is. Pastors have that opportunity, and then to explain how Christianity as a religion, how it has played out over the millennia, and the freedom that comes through faith in Jesus Christ and God's biblical plan for mankind to return and come to Him. If you want to talk about a religion of peace, that would be Christianity.
Amen.
The way that individuals and human beings in Christianity have lived their lives haven't always been peaceful, but the religion of Christianity is a peaceful religion, unlike the religion that we have seen it played out of Islamic Jihad. It's very different, but as this show is airing, it is airing approximately 1 month before an American election.
Right. That's right.
Ideas have consequences. Elections have consequences. And that's why it is imperative that we gain a proper understanding of what is happening and that we elect leaders who will actually stop and do whatever they can to stop Islamic Jihad, to stop this war, and to also bring about America's best national security interests. It's why I introduced my legislation to denaturalize and pull the passports and deport the Islamic State out of the United States. We need to have elected officials who understand the times and know what to do.